I joined the Safe Routes to School team in 2016 as an AmeriCorps Vista. And so that work looked like direct outreach with elementary schools in USD 500 and USD 202, which is turn, and coordinating with those schools internally with whomever honestly saw the value in taking extra steps to making sure that kids get to school safely. So be it the PE teachers, the parent liaison, actual parents, the principals, right? So I provide technical assistance as a consultant to coordinate with them directly and also be that middleman, I like to say, or middlewoman between the needs of the school and the capabilities that the UG has to meet those needs. So for example, everyone needs more sidewalks, right? But there's only so much money to make those happen. So what can we do and what safety measures can be put in place to still meet your needs as a school, but also, work with what we have. So maybe that looks like signage improvements and crosswalk painting updates. And so it's my job to connect those dots and make sure that those things happen and communicate what needs need to be met.
And I think that some of those sidewalk improvements, Frank Rushton and Rosedale benefited from those recently. Isn't that right, Jacqueline?
Yes, so we have new sidewalks around Frank Rushton currently. Before they came in, Mission Road, there's a very steep hill there, and essentially beforehand youth would just walk up in the streets. And so this is how we got youth to be advocates for themselves, is that we had parents and teachers able to walk with the youth to make sure that while folks were coming in from Westwood and Missouri down the hill into KCK, that we were protecting the young people from that fast traffic down that steep hill. And after a while, I just remember an interview, the news came out when we had the ribbon cutting for that strip. And a young person was like, I've been waiting all my life to have sidewalks, all 10 years, right? So he's waiting all his life. There were sidewalks there, and he was very happy that we had sidewalks. But more recently, with the update to Frank Rushton Elementary, the UG was very much cognizant to making sure that young people had sidewalks to walk to this new building, and so was made sure that we had that, and we do. And we're very grateful. As you could see, upwards to 40 kids sometimes walking the Safe Schools route from their homes. We're picking them up as a bus of caravan of walkers, stopping. Kids will knock on the doors if someone's a little late, and they will join the caravan, and it's just a crew of young people having a good old time, telling stories, sharing what they did the night before, sharing stories about what's to come. We talk about everything from family relationships to politics to whatever. The young people, damn it. There's something about movement and conversation that just allows people to feel free and be able to share. And I find it extremely useful, whereas we go to community meetings and hearings to hear what the adults think about what's happening in the community, to hear what the children's point of view on any given subject. Just get into a walking school bus and you'll hear the gamut of all the topics we talk about as adults from a youth's perspective.
I love that description of the walking school buses and how it's a caravan of kids who are talking about all of the things that are important to them. And it turns out that kids are really deep, and what matters to adults matters to them. And I loved hearing you say that I don't love hearing that this kid had been waiting his entire life for sidewalks, but that is indicative of how important it is for kids. His whole life, he's been waiting for the sidewalk, and he's so excited to finally get sidewalks so he can walk to school and safely walk around his neighborhood.
For sure. If I can add to that, and I'm sure she won't mind me telling this story, but the city traffic engineer for Public Works is very passionate about this program. Lydiana LaBoy, she's a wonderful, talented engineer that has really made sure that this program stays on everyone's radar and make sure that it continues on. And for her personally, that very childhood, I've been waiting my whole life for these sidewalks, I think resonates for her, and why this is important, because she grew up in Puerto Rico and her route to school was impacted by a lack of present infrastructure. And for her, it always resonated that, you know, if I could just get to school without this limitation, and now as an engineer, if I can, for her, if she can make it better for other students. So I think those types of things, you know, you don't forget them, and especially in that Mission Road area. I mean, it is heavy traffic, and I'm sure all of the kids that live in that area have grown up with either horror stories or endless warnings from their parents about how careful they have to be with traffic, you know.
Well, it sounds to me like Lydiana's experiences as a child growing up without a safe route to her own school inspired her to become an advocate, like you said, for kids. Now she's an adult and she has that capability. So let's talk about how kids learn to be advocates for their community in these walking school buses. Jatame, I remember you telling me that you remember having a conversation with kids about immigration and how they saw scary stories on the news, and they saw that their parents were worried about it, and they wanted to talk about it the next day and talk about how they could be a comfort to their parents, or how they could be a help to their friends who might be impacted by that.
Definitely. It was actually after the president shared that we were going to build a wall and make sure that immigrants, undocumented immigrants, will need to leave. And so on the onset of our conversation of walking, the first few questions I got from the young people were, Miss Jatame, does my grandma have to leave and go back to Mexico? And I tried to tread very lightly. I was like, well, what did your parents say? And they were very honest. Most of them were like, they heard news, they heard their parents talking, they heard their grandparents talking, but no one wanted to talk to them yet. And I imagine that because they themselves were still processing before they could process the young people. And so I just said, well, what do y'all think? Like, I just put it back on the young people, and they had a rich conversation talking about immigration and talking about equity and justice. Like, we had a great talk. Before you know it, we were right there at Frank Rushton, because it went by so quickly with the conversation that we had. Like I say, our walking route for Frank Rushton, I always say it seems like it's like the little United Nations, because depending on when you go, you have like Muslim students whose parents are yelling out, did you grab your bag, in Arabic? Or you have Japanese students whose parents are like, hey, here's your jacket, you know, like, or tie your shoe, and waving at me, all of these different languages. So as we have the caravan going through the neighborhood, to just see like how similar that your mom, no matter where you come from, is still gonna say, did you tie your shoes? Do you have your backpack? Everything that you need for the day. That doesn't matter where you come from. But on this very day, the young people were talking about immigration and the building of the wall, and that just let them know, oh, I am different. Whereas they knew they were different, because like I said, you can hear all of these languages, but they knew to the point that I might have a family member who will be forced out of this country. And what do I do with that information? Or how do I feel with that? Even so that they have solvency to the issue. They're like, I think everyone should stay if you're a fair citizen, you know, like, and so we talked about citizenship and what does it mean to be a good citizen and a good neighbor. And so those conversations are very rich and continue to be very rich every time I'm with young people and on a walk.
I agree, Jatame. I do one thing that I've observed along the walking school bus routes, and Frank Rushton they have the most amazing, diverse group of kids. And if you can just envision, just to give you a visual, a parade, if you will, of just these awesome kids. And I mean, it's a big group. I mean, 20 to 30 kids consistently. And they just go through the neighborhood. They're up, they're energetic, and they do have those dialogues. And I feel like I always come back to my office with a story before 8 a.m. by the time I've gotten done walking with the kids, because their opinions and their voices are just so, I think, refreshing for me as an adult, to see like, wow, you thought much further about that than I ever would have. Like, wow, I learned from you today. And I think that's also the beauty and richness of conversation. And, to Jatame's point about how, let's see. Are we still connected?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, just wanted to make sure my screen froze for just a moment. But to add on to Jatame's point also of the connectedness that the kids feel when they're in each other's neighborhoods, I mean, which are their own, really. Whereas some students may not have interacted at Frank Rushton, whether it be because of their grade or their friend circle or what have you. I think that I'm always amazed at the interpersonal relationships that they're able to make on that route home. Oh, you live here? I live 2 doors down. Or your dad's car is that color? My dad's car is that color. I mean, kids are always finding their common ground just through being kids and in conversation. So that's something I enjoy observing them do.
Yeah. In addition to that, like the gamut of topics that come up. So I'm always saying to the left, like if I see a car coming and a budding advocate, I remember one day as we were walking, was like, why do we have to walk in the grass? I'm gonna get my sneakers dirty. And I'm like, I hear you, babe. I hear you, because they didn't want to be in the grass. And so his response is like, if we had sidewalks, my shoes wouldn't get dirty, because every few minutes, like, he'll stop, lick his thumb, and get a scuff of green grass off of it, because I'm like, get to the left, get out of the street. To know that from then looking out from each other, like, there was like an area, a cul-de-sac of just nothing but trees, and the Rosedale has a cleanup every year. And so I ask young people along the Safe Routes route, I'll ask, hey, what areas need to be cleaned, And so where did y'all see in y'all's neighborhood? And they're like, over there by the trees. People dump over there, their televisions and all kinds of things. And I was like, okay, well, are any of you interested of helping clean up, when we do? And one person, or 2 little boys actually told me, y'all better watch out if you go over there. There are some cats over there wild, So I was like, well, how many cats are you talking? Like 20 of them. I'm like, wait, there are 20 wild cats. And so they're having conversation, and people so the kids varying relationships with the cats are like, cats are nice and sweet. And they're like, not these cats. They'll chase after you and they'll scream at you and scratch at you. And I'm like, wait, we have feral cats. Like, I'm just listening. And so I gave them a new word. I was like, oh, they're feral cats, and they're like, what does that mean? I'm like, they're wild cats, they don't have an owner and they're wild. And so the kids like, yeah, they're feral cats, and they're being very serious, but trying to tell, I'd imagine they're like 4th graders. They're trying to tell the younger kids, now don't go back as, like, I can run fast. I can get away from the cats, but you might not be able to. So I'm just giving you a heads up that might not be safe for you to go that route.
They definitely know their neighborhood. And if you ask a question, they have an answer. And yes, because there is a hill that you go up along Frank Rushton's route. And it was like endless, if we had sidewalks, and it's always an opportunity to open that conversation of, well, what would you do if, you were in the position to get sidewalks, or what do you think that takes? And the conversation just goes from there, because they have an answer.
Well, that's something that we talk a lot about with grown-ups, is that when you get out in your community and you walk or you bike or you move through your community at sidewalk speeds, you get to know your neighbors and you get to know your neighborhood. And if you notice if your next door neighbor hasn't been out in a few days, you can go over and check on them. Or if there is a new pile of trash tires on the corner, you can call 311 because that wasn't there last week. And these are all things that you notice, so you can keep your neighborhood not just safer, but also more resilient. Because when we take care of each other, that's building community, right?
For sure.
Yeah.
The power of sidewalks and neighborhood connectivity is just astounding. If I walk out of my house where I live and I turn to the right, they're pretty beaten up sidewalks, but there's at least sidewalks going up that direction. So anytime I'm just walking for exercise or taking my dog for a walk or anything else, that's the way I go. I know 20, 30 different residents up that direction, from running into them on the street, from talking to them in their front yard, from them sitting on the front porch and us saying hello to each other, everything else. If I turn left, there's no sidewalks. I never walk that way. I don't know anyone to the east of me because I don't walk that direction because there's no sidewalks that direction. It really does make that big of a difference. It truly does.
That's a great observation.
So so the kids are kind of initiating this advocacy on their own, really, because they're the ones who are out playing in their neighborhood and who know to run from the cats because they're scary. Thank you so much for sharing that. That's it's great. And also sorry for the cats and for the kids, but it's a great story. But the kids are the ones who are initiating this advocacy. How can we take them to the next level? So they start off noticing these things about the neighborhood, and then how can we take them from noticing the things to taking action on them?
I think it's about like listening. So for our campaign, every year we have kids, we just ask them, like, if you were to write your representative, like, what would you say? And sometimes, because that part of the campaign is in January, so it's usually when we're not doing the walking school bus. And I remind them of the stories they told me. I'm not feeding them anything. I was like, hey, didn't you tell me that there were cats in the backwoods? Or didn't you say you didn't like your shoes being scuffed? They're like, yes, okay. And so that, then me just listening, I'm able to give them back what they gave me and share it to me. So then when the time is right to use their voices to share what their thoughts and their opinions are on these various political subjects, they're able to do it, and it's their own words. It's not even coaching. It's just me reminding them, hey, didn't you remember you said this? And so they take it from there. So every year we allow, we go into each of the Rosedale schools and ask them, what would you want to change in your community? A blanket statement. And we give them a picture showing, this is your representative, here's your senator, like, here, the governor. Who would you like to write to? And they'll pick, I would like to write to that person. Okay, well, here's your postcard, write whatever. And if you can't write, I don't know if the District 500 was doing a year of bullying, but even the young kids were like having stick figures push another one saying with an X, like that's not good. And so they're able to utilize their voices to bring about change because they do notice and see what's around them.
For sure. And I think another example of that is when the kids notice trash and Rosedale always has initiatives that advocate for, pickups and trash pickups within the community. So I think just helping them find outlets at their own age to channel their voices. I love reminding the kids that, their voices matter. So whereas I'm not able to give them the senator's number, I'm like, well, have you talked to your parents about that? What do your parents think? Have you brought it to your teacher? And I just love reminding them, yeah, let's see what they think about what you have to say about that. See what your principal thinks about how you feel about that. Because for me, I know that I'm going to be getting feedback from the principal and the teacher. And so it's encouraging the kids to bring their concerns to those powers, if you will, the same way.
I think that's great advice. I really love the message that kids are capable and kids know what they're doing in their neighborhood, and if you give them the tools to make change, then they can do that. Give them the power and give them the tools and let them go. So this semester has obviously not been successful, and I don't think Rosedale schools have been doing walking school buses at all. Correct?
No, we started walking school bus like right spring break, so we did not get to follow through this semester.
Do you have plans to, I know that schools are kind of up in the air right now and we're not really sure what's going to happen, but do you have plans to keep the kids engaged through the summer and possibly into the fall, even if school is still not quite what it used to be?
Definitely, not only with the walking school, because we work with the unified government with a program, but we were doing Wyandotte County walks or walk with a doc for some of the folks who are in the community. And so that is just still the walking school bus. Hey, you're walking in the community with a doctor and asking them whatever various questions. So we're fortunate to have a medical center right in our neighborhood. And so to have a doctor come and walk and talk with adults, then hey, that it's twofold. You're getting your exercise in, and instead of making an appointment to go in, you're actually having a conversation with a doctor. So much so that some of the doctors are actually prescribing, giving prescriptions of go take a walk in this program. And so that was working for the elders in our neighborhood. Just recently, since the pandemic, we've done physical health Mondays, and so like saying share what you're doing for physical health. We post on Working Wednesdays, and that's usually like cleaning up the trash or doing whatever you can in the neighborhood to make sure beautification is there. So there's a lot of things that we have missed. Like in the past, we worked with Parks and Rec and would have year-long programming around youth sports. And so we can't do that. But there are ways that youth can still move their bodies and still assist in calling out those spaces that need to change, by cleaning it up. Just recently too, we worked with harvesters, for example, for Project Strength, to work with the elders. And so it's like helping them cook nutritious meals, but it's also an opportunity for half of the program is for them to exercise. And so I do miss the walking school bus because little people have a soft spot in my heart. And even with walking school bus, we incorporated other programs like Casey Healthy Kids has the walking detectives. So for the youth to even have those lenses to like see and hone in, like here's your little notebook. What are you noticing? And so they can map out, hey, sidewalks end here, or this is where the feral cats live, or here's where people dump their tires and TV. And so like they're able to like utilize other tools, which are just building. It's building upon a foundation of just walking your neighborhood, like slow things down a little bit. And one thing that COVID has helped us to do is to slow down and to be able to walk. Like I'm actually shocked in the sense of, John, as you were talking, like sharing, there's so many people who are just walking because we all got tired of being inside. And so just noticing each other and just like, hey, I can't talk to you, but if you stay 6 feet away from me, we can walk together, like have a conversation, or stopping at people's porches at the sidewalk so that they're not on the property, but still carrying conversation, So these are all of the things that are still associated with the principles of the walking school bus and safe routes. But they're tweaked in a different way. Not everything has to be under the blanket of one program. Actually, if we all do what we're called to do, I think we could all enhance what we all each are doing and continuously just build community.
For sure. Yes. No schools were able to do a school bus because I mean, we just didn't come back to school, and most schools do wait until after spring break when we've had, we're in the Midwest, that final break in the weather, right? Especially for groups that walk in the morning, because it is still cooler temperatures and things like that. So for my end of it, I've just been working closely with Public Works on, school is out, and programming is put on hold, but what can we do now to make sure that when we are back, whatever back looks like, whatever the new normal is, what can we do now to make sure that we're ready to be as supportive as possible to the new needs of schools and communities. And this is a ongoing conversation, and one that has not yet been had, but how can we make walking school bus a alternative mode of transportation when we go back to school? And how can we do that safely? How can we make sure that we have the adult presence still, but still maintain social distance? So there's a plethora of conversations to still be had, but for us, there's no walking involved. It's all kind of the back end foundational pieces and that's still beneficial, because it gives you a chance to, when you're not, I'm sure we've all experienced, when we're not doing this hustle and bustle of the day to day, you can slow down, you can look back. I can take a look and see where Frank Rushton was 4 years ago and really look at how far they've come and all of the different things that have happened since then, and how can we take those very efforts and bring them to other schools? So just looking at those background pieces of how we can come back better and most importantly, meet whatever needs arise, I think.
I think that's an important point about new needs, because life in general as a whole is going to be a little bit different when this is over, if it's ever over. It's going to be a little bit different in the future, that's what I should say, than it has been before. And I applaud both RDA and UG for taking time to plan and consider that we may not be able to use all of the answers that we had before in the same way that we did. So Areiona, you're also working on some Move Your Way campaign, correct? Can you tell us a little bit more about that? And because it sounds kind of similar to what Jatane was talking about, moving your body however you want.
For sure, and that's exactly what it is. So there is such thing as the National Physical Activities Guidelines, that there are these metrics that say that what all of us as people need to stay healthy, be it whatever age you are, how much physical activity you need a day. It's been 60 minutes and 120 minutes of cardio and things like that. So all these different metrics and the Move Your Way campaign is essentially pushing out that messaging, but also encouraging how you do that. So how do you do that? You move your way. Your 60 minutes a day does not have to be in the gym. And obviously that has not been an option anyway for the last couple of months. So I think that actually the Move Your Way campaign couldn't have come at a more unique time, I'll say, because it really forced everyone involved to, I don't think anyone was ever going to suggest like promoting the gym as the main source of physical activity, but it definitely forced us to put the focus back on trails and parks and utilize, the unique methods that we all have to be active. I mean, if anybody's been cleaning out their house the past couple of months, I'm sure you felt the burn the next day and had some soreness. And so, gardening, that's an alternative, but yet common for some thing. It's an activity that you don't necessarily think about as active. We usually associate, I'm not working out unless I'm sweating. And I guess to a degree, there's some truth to that, but we can all be active by walking to school. And there are proven benefits to just walking to school. Just that one small adjustment, to our common lifestyles. So I think that the Move Your Way campaign, to come back to that, is simply a great way to encourage us all as a community to move the way that works for your situation and dynamics right now. If that's a lap around your neighborhood, for me, a good friend of mine takes laps around the local Quick Trip. And I'm just like amazed at how much, how simple that is, as a way to move your way. It's like 2 laps and you've done a mile. It's a steep hill and everything, all of that. Boom, you've moved your way. So that is what the campaign is. It's pushing out that messaging to encourage people to have that personal accountability and provide tips and resources on how they can stay active.
I wonder, I know that one of the effects of the pandemic that we're all feeling especially strongly is social isolation. And one of the great benefit that we've been talking about with Walking School Bus has been connecting people and connecting kids to each other and to each other's families in their neighborhood. Do you have thoughts about how we can keep our families and our neighbors connected even when we're not really supposed to be in each other's space at all?
So ways that we are doing it at RDA would be, like I was saying, working Wednesdays, doing whatever you can to work on beautification of the neighborhood. And it can be as simple as picking up trash. And so RDA provides every Wednesday right outside our doors gloves to keep yourself safe, and put the trash in that people can find the neighborhood. Or we do promote the Move Your Way campaign on our Physical Health Monday. So here are some fact sheets for different age groups about how much to move your body or different ways to move your body. And like I stated before, the Walking School Bus, to be curious about your neighborhood and your surroundings. And so that is still walking, whether you're bird watching or looking to see where the sidewalks stop, like still moving the body, still being cognizant of your surroundings.
And go ahead, Jatam, I'm sorry.
5 miles of trails at the Ozarks. And so if you just need to stay away from people and just want to go into a tree wooded area, you can do that as well. And so, yeah, there are various ways in which you can get out into nature. And being shut in for so long, like, it's actually good mental health to be outside, breathing fresh air and being in nature. And so that is just a few ways that you can do that.
And I would even, include walks with family in your neighborhood. I have not personally had connections with any of the Walking School Bus kids. I miss them all. But, I'd encourage families to, walk through your neighborhood, because I think sometimes that is a forgotten activity. And it's an opportunity to be with your family in a way that I don't think we've done typically. And I know everyone, some of us are socially isolated to self, but I think that just continuing to stay moving with those around you. And so, yeah, I'm constantly interested to see what creative things people are doing. My cousin, she really loves working out, and her home workouts have included lifting gallon water jugs. And I thought that was so cool. So I'm constantly excited to see what innovation is birthed through this chaos.
I know, at least for myself, like I jokingly say I would like to become a cool elder one day. And so I found myself sitting on the porch, and between the squirrels wrestling and the birds singing, I'm also meeting my neighbors, right? Like, so everyone will stop by and be like, hey, how are you doing? What's going on? And that's because they take a walk at different times of day than I do. And then I return the favor later in the day. Like, after some Zoom calls, you're like, I just move my body. So you're like, hey, I saw you this morning around 7, now around 10:30. I needed to get out of my house. So Yes, I know my neighbors now, and I did not know my neighbors before.
That's great. Another thing that I didn't anticipate being a newfound activity and way to keep moving, which this may be debatable, but a hammock. I have really enjoyed learning how to hammock on quarantine and through this social isolation, and it's definitely a way to stay like outdoors. So I feel like I put more work into setting it up, and then I guess I get to relax and enjoy the fruits of my labor later. But I think it still counts. I think I'm moving my way.
Well, I think that I know that for those of us who have still been working from home, sometimes the blur between work life and home life is really messy. And if you don't intentionally take time to rest, that is also not good for your body, right? So sitting in a chair and staring at Zoom all day or spreadsheets or whatever it is you do is not good for you. And I think that hammocking sounds like an excellent way to take a breather.
It's great early morning, late afternoon.
Well, and you live a little bit kind of out in the country, right? And so you have extra wildlife and breathe trees.
Yeah, it's got its give and takes.
Maybe slightly less wildlife would be good.
For sure. But I mean, to your point of utilizing where you are. So like Jatane was saying, you know, there's the Ozarks. And I was already a huge user of the Wyandotte County Lake. And so that hasn't changed for me. It's just only increased. But really taking advantage of what is local to you, and really just, yeah, finding your way.
I know that in Prairie Village and some neighborhoods in Kansas City, Missouri have been kind of closing their streets to through traffic. So they'll put up like cones and little homemade signs, and they've been blocking off their street so that people can still be safely social, so like distantly social, I guess, and keep active. I know of one street near me where I think it's 4 or 5 kids on that block have learned how to ride their bikes without training wheels in the last 3 months. So super exciting.
That is awesome. When I drive through my neighborhood, I have to like think, what time are kids at school now? And I drive cautiously anyway, because I do have a lot of kids that ride bikes or do whatever. But it's like, when should I be more cautious? I don't know if I can play by my same, 8 to 4 rules, right?
Yeah, I think you're both right. There's a lot of innovation that's happening right now. People are making do with what they have that's close to them. And they're searching for things. So they're eager to do things like you were talking before we opened about the youth employment, summer youth employment program. And you've got kids who are working in gardens now, and making do with what you have and keeping them active and busy and learning important skills, and keeping them engaged.
Definitely. Like we will start our orientation with 14 to 17-year-olds Monday, and how it usually start the first week actually with the Earn a Bike program. And so like 15 youth will we'll have someone from Bike Walk KC come through. Quincy actually will be the one coming through, and we'll teach our young people safety and bike safety. And after a while, you'll see over the last 3 years of having the program, you'll see those who are like, I haven't been on a bike. And I'm like, baby, I haven't either. So like, you'll see people who haven't been on a bike for a while, and now they're cool 8th, 9th, or 10th graders, and so we don't ride on bikes. And I'm trying to teach them how to be independent, that you don't have to wait until your big sister or your parents can take you one place or the other. all of the businesses that employ the summer youth employment employees, are right in a 5-mile square radius of Rosedale. And so they can bike. And so like this summer, what will be different is because as the city is opening back up, and there are a lot of small businesses in Rosedale who may or may not be able to make it past this pandemic. And so this year, what the young people at Summer Youth Employment will do is help me garden. We planted so many seeds during the start of shut-in that the young people, we have 4 community gardens and orchards. We will get on our bikes and we will ride to where we need within this 5-mile square radius, and either prune some trees, pick some fruits, clean off vegetables, and give it ready for the community members who are in need. And so that will be the focused job for them to do this summer, is they're gonna know how to grow and harvest and how to like lend a good hand in our community. And it's all with moving, like they're gardening, getting physical activity, they're riding their bikes with getting physical activity. And gardening is hard after a while. Like you'll feel your forearms and your hands and your back and your hamstrings, all of that. Like you'll feel that exercise. And so that's what they'll be doing this summer. And that's our way of being adaptable to the systems right now, to the current changes, and being mindful that they still need to keep their distance. They still need to be cognizant, but we're out in nature and we're getting our exercise on while still providing for the community.
More kids participating in advocacy and community building and resilient neighborhoods. It really warms my heart to hear that that kids are so engaged with this, whether they're little kids or teenagers. They are committed to it, and it's something that they value doing, that it's not just adults who are like making them do this. I'm sure there's going to be some occasions where you like have to make them weed when they would rather do something else, but where it's something that they are engaged with and they are wanting to give back to their own community.
Yeah, I actually sent out an email just like letting them know. We usually try to like pair them up with the organization where whatever they want to be when they grow up, like just to give them a taste of it, to say this is what it is to be in more of an admin position or harder labor. And so like, because we had more admin positions in the past, like I did a caveat of like, hey, we're going to be outside and it's going to be hot and we're going to be on bikes. After your parents drop you off, like make sure you bring your bike, because that's a long walk to get on one side of Rosedale to the other. And so they were all still very much game and like, no, I want to do it. Now, mind you, it might be still young people who want money in their pockets, but heck, that's our society. We're a capitalist society. And so we all work to make sure that we have our money so we can afford us to do whatever we want with that.
And that's still independent, self-reliant kids, right? Yeah, that's great. Folks, we've got about 5 more minutes. If you have any questions, please like pop in, speak up, park them in the chat if you like. Areiona, you've got a lot of high fives for the hammocks idea. You are not the only one.
I feel seen. I'm grateful.
We got my niece a hammock, and she is 11 this year, and she has spent a significant time, a significant pandemic season in the hammock reading books, because those are her 2 loves right now. She also loves riding her bicycle, but she rode it so much that she injured her hip, and she's very proud of this fact. She tells everybody that she rode her bike so much that she injured herself, and so now she's having some hammock time instead.
That's great. Something to be proud of for sure.
We all
She'll never forget.
Definitely. She'll one day be like, when I was a kid, it was that summer that there was a pandemic and I rode my bike constantly, and now I was hurt.
That'll be her definition of back in my day.
Well, you know, she so she saw a chiropractor about it. Her mom was like, just in case it's an actual thing, you know, you've got growth spurts and growing bones when you're 11, so we got to make sure it's fine. And the chiropractor told her that this is an injury that Tour de France riders receive, and so like she won't let it go. It's pretty cute.
That is great. She earned her stripes.
Yeah, she wears it like a badge, that limp. Oh, Carl says, thank you, Jatane, for taking care of the youth in Rosedale during the turmoil that is 2020. I loved hearing all of your anecdotes.
That's awesome, KK. Yes, thank you, Jatane. Your work is endless and phenomenal.
And very fun, right?
All right, folks. Well, thank you so much for joining us today. We really appreciate you all being here. Many, many thanks to Jatane and to Areiona for joining us this week. I appreciate you both so much. I love seeing your faces. I was telling Lottie earlier today that I got to host a meeting with you two, and she says, that sounds amazing.
It's always good to hang out with Areiona.
Yeah. Yes, well, I'm looking forward to seeing more exciting work from both of you in the coming summer and the coming year, whatever that means, whatever the new needs are, as Areiona said. I know that we are all creative and you're ready and you love the kids and you love your community and you're ready to go to town for them. So thank you all so much for coming. I will send out a follow-up email tomorrow that will include some links to some things that Areiona and Jatane mentioned today, including some of the continuing programming from RDA and also from the Nuclear Way program that will kind of give you an idea of how you can keep your local community active and engaged and social and taking care of each other throughout the summer. If you do have any questions, my email is liz.harris@bikewalkkc.org, liz.harris@bikewalkkc.org. So send those over to me or reply to me tomorrow, and I will send I will ask the questions to the appropriate people and reply back. We will have another talk next week. We're going to have a Women Bike KC conversation, and it's going to be a participant-led conversation. So if you or a friend are interested in our Women Bike KC program, which is for women, trans, femme, non-binary folks in the Kansas City area who love bikes or who think that someday they might love bikes, send them our way, and we'll have a lunch and learn next week. Thank you so much for joining us, and I will talk to you all next time.